Good afternoon. My name is Sean Edwards. I'm the Director of Global Communication and Strategy for British Petroleum, or as you know, BP. Today I'd like to talk to you about the unfortunate events surrounding the Deepwater Horizon oil rig failure that occurred in 2010. I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. I have a 10-year history in public relations. I have a bachelor's degree in liberal studies from Kaplan University, and I went on further to get my master's degree in communications from the University of Arizona. I'm here today to talk about our new communication strategy. Hogan mentioned in 2010 that Tony Hayward's remarks surrounding the event were damaging. He came off as unsympathetic and as if he was disengaged from the local public that was affected by this horrific event. Elliott defines the event as a catastrophic failure and mentions that 11 BP associates lost their lives in the tragedy. Griffin, Black, and Devine said that this was the worst environmental disaster that has occurred on the planet. They mentioned the 3.1 million barrels of oil spilled into the Gulf and have settled there today. As you saw on local news channels as well as national news networks, the social fallout was devastating. BP immediately had a light cast upon us that we failed to answer correctly. The immediate response involved a massive cleanup effort. To date, Jeff Morrill, who was interviewed by Elliott, stated that BP has spent $28 billion in recovery efforts. We have tried to advance the technology to help clean up the oil that has spilled in the Gulf. Our ongoing efforts include a Gulf Coast Restoration Fund that was recently opened. This fund has hired 200 of the world's leading marine biologists to study the short-term and long-term impact. The short-term impact to the wildlife was well documented. Many people saw the horrific incidents where animals were washing ashore covered in oil, birds that couldn't fly because their wings were soaked in oil. The long-term impact is yet to be defined. In the 7 years since the incident, the FDA, according to Griffin, has done research to show that there is no long-term impact to the species in the Gulf of Mexico. Elliott does mention that places like Basteria Bay are not recovering. The wildlife that grew in the wetlands there has suffered and has yet to come back. This will be an ongoing focus as we move forward to help prevent future incidents and take care of the only planet we have. I'm here today to propose a new strategy that we're going to work with scientists and not against them. Gallucci mentions that the economic devastation to the area was incredible. He mentions people like Randy Bourne, a small businessman from Louisiana, who has been struggling to feed his family and keep his business afloat after the impacts of the oil that was spilled in the Gulf. I've worked with the chairman and CEO and board of directors, and we have allocated $10 billion for the families that have been negatively impacted outside of anything that will be ruled against us in the federal courts. Our crisis communication, I think, is the most important. We failed when we started. In my studies and in my experience, crisis communication can define how a company moves forward from a disaster. As Walker states, crisis communication needs to be empathetic and genuine. Moving forward, I plan to be transparent. We will be replacing Ann Womack Colton with a new director of public relations who will see that vision and align with me to work towards the future. We want to fight the negative stigma. Sure, we made a mistake. People lost their lives. It was a tragedy. However, I want to focus on the future. Without focusing on the future, the Gulf Coast will be lost. The widespread impact of the disaster will forever change that landscape. My hope is that we can earn the trust back of millions of Americans and natives to the area that we failed. Along with the $28 billion we've already spent, the $10 billion I've allocated, we're going to also open a communication line. We're going to open 800 for my area. That line will be a direct line to BP's crisis management team, where any further incidents from this horrific accident can be reported and investigated in a timely manner. We want to make ourselves available to the public so that they know, you know, that we are here and committed to this cleanup effort. Some of the things we've done in-house is changed our safety protocol. We instituted a knock it off program in which any employee at any time during any process can call knock it off. When the employee calls knock it off, the process will be stopped immediately and it will be evaluated. We have also hired over 5,000 safety experts globally to ensure that no other accidents occur. Going forward, I would like to focus on the positives that BP has done in your area and will continue to do as a committed global energy partner. BP employs 14,000 Americans. We have 4,000 miles of pipeline and over 7,100 retail sites. We want to be where you are. We want to make ourselves available. We've also donated $130 million to community programs across the country to help further the clients that we serve. We are also committed to our veterans. BP has launched a global initiative to hire veterans, not just from the United States, but from all armed forces. The dedication, attention to detail, and integrity that veterans from the military bring us is paramount, and that is what we hope to use to secure our future. And lastly, I want to talk about the $90 billion that we have invested in the United States from 2006 to 2015 to further America's infrastructure and continue to be the world's leader in economic policy. I will be holding monthly forums that will be available on our website so you can know how our plan is progressing and how we are moving forward. I will also be holding quarterly town hall meetings where I encourage citizens of the Gulf Coast states and anyone else affected to come talk and hear responses. I will be open and honest and not hide from the mistakes we've made in the past. I look forward to a bright future in BP and a bright future with the Gulf Coast states. Thank you.